Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you are someone that has been suffering with grief for a long time and you think there is no way out and you've been living with that pain for some time and traditional therapy just doesn't seem like the road that you want to go down, well, we've got some good news for you today because we're going to be talking about alternatives to traditional therapy. So stick around. So again, if you've been struggling with grief and traditional therapy just doesn't seem like the road that you want to go down, then stick around because we're going to talk about an amazing alternative traditional therapy. So today I'm joined with Laurie, who is the owner of Healing Heart Center, Colorado. So Laurie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to anybody that doesn't know you?
Hi everyone, my name is Laurie Freeman and I am a certified grief recovery specialist in the grief recovery method, and I'm also an integrative wellness life coach, and I'm located in Littleton.
Awesome. So again, we want to encourage you, whether you're watching live or in the replay. We know grief isn't something that's fun to talk about. In fact, if you want to go back and watch last week's video, we'll put the link in the comment. Laurie shares about her personal story with grief. You've been hit with grief. You've had multiple suicides in your family. You've been through this, and now you're to the point where you want to start helping other people. So if traditional therapy wasn't your thing, again, I want to encourage you to stick around. But let's go. Let's get right into the content today. Right in what we talked about before, Laurie. But how does the grief recovery method, which is an evidence-based 7-week program, differ from traditional therapy?
So, like you said, it's a systematic approach, and we have clear, concise steps that you take in order to overcome your grief. You're held accountable for homework assignments, for reading assignments, for verbalizing with me all your thoughts and feelings about the curriculum. It's each week builds upon the prior week in order to bring you to success at the end of the 7 weeks. And with traditional therapy, like I just said, this is 7 weeks. With traditional therapy, you don't know how long it's going to take, and you don't know how much money you're going to spend.
That's a really valid point. So with traditional therapy, it could be that it's an indefinite amount of time that you're going to work through what's happening in your life. And for some people, that's great. We're not bashing traditional therapy for any reasons whatsoever. But for others, they're maybe more interested in getting to the root and kind of getting over their grief. And that's where the 7-week program really comes into play. And our third question, we're going to break down what that program is all about. So stick around. But this is a fixed cost program,
Correct.
7 weeks, and they are done.
They are done.
Right? So talk about a little bit about how this is when you're treating people. So you're just one-on-one kind of in a coach environment, right?
Correct. I direct you in the homework assignments, in the reading. We discuss all the aspects of the 7 weeks of the program, but I'm just kind of coaching you in order for you to do the work. If you don't do the work, you're not going to achieve the benefits that you're looking for.
And that makes a lot of sense. So last week we talked about myths. So we talked about myths around grief. What were a few of those myths we talked about last week?
Be strong, time heals all wounds, grieve alone, all those myths that we're taught when
Your
we're
favorite
growing
one
up.
of staying busy, right?
Staying busy, yes.
Stay busy. So there's these myths around grief that you should do all these things, right? You're dealing with grief. You should stay busy. You should do all these things. But this week we're going to talk about these coping mechanisms that keep you stuck. So what are these coping mechanisms that kind of keep you stuck?
Some of the coping mechanisms that keep people stuck are drinking, alcohol, shopping, social media, too much sleeping, too much eating. We call those short-term energy relieving behaviors. These are activities that you use to try to make yourself feel better, and they do for a while, but then they stop working, and that's why they're called short-term energy relieving behaviors. And in most times, they're not harmful, but they could be if you started gambling and you went to the extreme, and then you have other problems that come along.
And when they are harmful is when you're using them to just not face your grief.
Correct.
For you, you were an over volunteer, right? Talk about that.
Right. So I was working full time. I got involved with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and I was volunteering 20 plus hours a week. I thought I was honoring my son and my husband by doing all this work. If I could save one life, that would make their loss worth it. But I wasn't honoring myself. I was not allowing myself the time to grieve. I wasn't allowing myself to take the steps that I needed to do to heal myself.
I get that. So whether you're joining us now live or in the replay, we're talking about alternatives to traditional therapy, and we're talking about a 7-week program that's made to help you overcome your grief in 7 weeks. It's called the Grief Recovery Method. And if you're somebody out there that has overcome their grief, Laurie is somebody that's worked through these steps and done the program and overcame her grief. But if you're out there and you're brave enough to comment below that you did the Grief Recovery Method and you had a great experience, let us know in the comments, because that's going to help somebody who's maybe on the bubble to do this know that, oh, other people are doing it, maybe I should try it. Because I know you're working with 3 amazing people right now that are interested in getting over this in 7 weeks.
Correct. They've tried the other method of therapy and it just didn't work for them. And so they've come to me, and already I can see the difference in 2 weeks.
And that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
That is a big deal, because for anybody struggling with grief, you know that feeling. It's that, explain it. What is that feeling in the depth of your grief?
Utter sadness and lack of energy and focus, and just feeling like life is not worth living. And if you start going through the program and working through your grief, you're going to find that life is worth living, and you will find happiness again, and your memories and thoughts aren't going to be so painful.
And we want that for you. We really do.
We do.
So we're going to get into the program. I promise you we would talk about it. But Laurie, talk about this 7-week program. We're going to give you a very 10,000-foot view of what it looks like to work through this program so that you can know what it takes.
So we talk about what is grief. What is grief? What is unresolved grief? What is completeness? We talk about the myths, like we talked about last week. We talk about the myths that we're all brought up to believe in. Our parents learned it from their parents. We learned it from our parents, and how they don't work. We also learn about how our society is not really well versed in how to help someone who is grieving. So we talk about that. We also talk about the short-term energy relieving behaviors and how we use those in order to make ourselves feel better. A lot of times people will realize, well, all this coffee drinking and this chocolate, that's my stirp. That's what I've been doing, and I didn't know I was doing it and why I was doing it. We also then go into all the losses that you've had in your life. So we look at losses from, you lost your friend when you were in 6th grade to maybe a major loss like a death or a suicide. We talk about those because a lot of times the way you handle the later losses is how you handled the beginning losses. So we start to find patterns of how you cope. And then we work on a relationship graph with either the person or the loss that you came to deal with. Because in a relationship, it's a two-way street. And a lot of times in our grief, we tend to either say that person never did anything wrong, or that person did everything wrong. And we start to realize as we go through the relationship graph that they were human, we were human, there was good, there was bad, there was a relationship going on. After we go through the relationship graph, we start to realize we have undelivered communications that we need to express. What do I need to apologize for in that relationship? What do I need to forgive for? And what do I just need to say? And then we turn around and we make a completion letter using those recovery components. And you read it out loud to me, and it's transformational. It truly, truly is. The weight of your grief just lifts off your body.
I've done letters like that before, and I can say I've experienced that feeling of getting over something you didn't feel like you could get over.
Right.
It's amazing what happens when you write it down on paper.
And when you actually put it into words, it's like getting it out of your body, so it's not just going around in your mind over and over and over again, and in your heart.
Yeah, and if you're somebody out there, again, you're dealing with grief, you're dealing with all these memories, you're dealing with all this unresolved stuff, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like you can't move forward, you can't get through it, you'll never get through it, this is your new normal. And I want to encourage you, you're not alone. Laurie helps people like this every day who felt stuck at one point. There's this old adage of, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. And one bite at a time just might be starting with a phone call or a consultation. What I love about you is specifically for the Facebook Live audience, you're going to offer 15% off, right?
I am. It's just when you call or email for a free consultation, just mention Facebook Live and we can take it from there.
Yeah, because we don't want money to be a barrier. At the end of the day, Laurie has to run a business, but she wants to make sure that you overcome the grief and you get the support that you need through this entire operation. So for anybody that's kind of on the fence, Laurie, what would you say to them? Really reach back when you were Laurie in the depth of that grief, and you know how hard it is, you know how heavy this phone is to finally pick up and say, I need help. What would you say to that person?
Just go ahead, pick up the phone, give me a call. We can talk. I can listen to you. I can help you and maybe erase some of the fears that you have that this is going to be really painful to go through this process. But this is 7 weeks versus maybe doing a year of therapy. I mean, would you want to do that every week for a year or once a week for 7 weeks? And know that at the end, you're going to feel so much better.
That's a really good point. I really love that. And for anybody that's not quite there, but you might want to learn a little more, we are going to put in the comments a link to one of Laurie's private groups. You can join that group, learn a little bit more about the program. This is a private group, so it is safe to ask questions. Nothing gets shared outside the group. Even if it got shared outside the group, the content isn't available. This is a safe space to talk about what you're going through in your life with people that have gone through it or going through it at this part in their life. So if that's the next logical step for you, go down into the comments and click that link and request to join that group. And as always, Laurie opens herself up for conversations. I see it all the time through Facebook Messenger. People reach out to you. They want to know what's going on and how you can help.
Yes, they do.
I love that.
And I love helping.
You do? That's why you do this, right?
It's what makes me tick.
So we appreciate your time. We really enjoyed you being here. If you haven't already liked this page, make sure you click the like button so that you can be sort of with us as we do future trainings and education. We exist and we do these Facebook Live things just to really help you understand what's going on with you so that you can start to get to the core of your grief and start to really get some of that relief. So thanks for your knowledge and information today, Laurie.
Thank you. I hope to talk to you soon.
And we'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.